guys feel things are turning the right time? On the right
Well,
direction?
I felt we have played fairly well. Obviously we've played some tough opponents, and 3 of them on the road. I feel like we're improving, and it kind of all came together. I thought our guys played exceptionally well Saturday. Intensity was there, the energy was there. We shared the ball on offense. Again, you don't build a lead like that unless you're playing pretty good defense as well. So we did a lot of good things, and even in the second half, we went through that drought a little bit where we didn't score, but our defense was pretty good during that stretch as well. So, again, it's another step, and we have a big one tomorrow now, and go on the road again. But, the guys have been doing everything that I ask, and at this point, in terms of where we're at in this process, that's all we can do. We just keep getting better.
You mentioned the process, kind of crawl, walk, run. Do you ever sit back and think if we win come Tuesday, we will pass our win total from a year ago?
Yeah, again, last year is so far in the distance, you don't even really think about that or talk about that. I think everybody in the program and around the program knows we're taking the right steps forward. So, what you hope is as you do that, I always talk about the tangible evidence, and the only tangible evidence that when it all said and done is the wins and losses, and we're making progress there as well.
Courtesy of Moose's notes, we pointed out that I think 14 of your 18 games this year have either been won or lost by double digits. Can you pinpoint why there's been such a, range of games? Is there one thing you pinpoint?
Well, it's it might have a little bit to do with youth or experience, and when maybe things are going good, they tend to go good. But at the same time, some of those double-digit losses all went into the last 8 minutes of the game, and that's one area sometimes that inexperience shows is, keeping games close, and not just at the 8-minute mark, but then keeping it close at the 4-minute mark and then finishing out. And that's an area we need to improve it.
What's the key tomorrow against Clemson?
Well, they're so good defensively. One of the best defensive teams in the country. So you have to have really, really efficient offense. You have to get good shots every possession. You got to take care of the ball. And then on the defensive end, they have some youth as well. But like so many teams in this league, like a Wake Forest on Saturday with some young players, they have 2 upperclassmen, in this case with Clemson, 2 senior go-to players in Booker and Jennings. Arguably at times the 2 best combination of post players in the league. Jennings goes for 28 and 14 yesterday, so those guys are explosive and can really have big games. And what they've been able to do as seniors is settle down Clemson when maybe the youth starts to get a little out of control, a little wild, and that's exactly what upperclassmen are supposed to do.
You got the short turnaround, and of course Clemson has one less day, but they're playing at home. Is that something you keep an eye on in the second half, conditioning-wise, both for your team and their team?
Well, this is our 3rd game in 6 days now, so there's an accumulation there. Obviously, they played yesterday afternoon, but being at home is a little easier. So, I think we got to make sure that we're fresh, because when you go on the road, your energy level is very, very important, and it's going to be important that we're able to sustain that for 40 minutes.
You talked about Booker and Jennings, but they also have McDaniels in there, and those 3 lead the team both in points and rebounds. So it's something you can really pinpoint when you talk about defense.
Yeah, and the one thing is, in Hall they have a point guard that really controls their entire system, offensively and defensively. So, and then they have a mixture of those young guys coming in and giving them a spark. So, with Booker and Jennings, as I said, very talented, explosive offensive players, and McDaniels, he's done an unbelievable job in terms of improvement, knocking down shots now, and he's as good an athlete as there is, not just in the ACC but in the country.
They're not a big scoring team, but I imagine that's a result of their defense and having the opponent use up the shot clock.
Yeah, they're so good defensively, they're hard to score on, and so possessions are a little longer. And with that, there's just not as many possessions in the game. So they're pretty good offensively. Obviously, when you have those 2 kids inside, and Jennings has shot the ball extremely well from the 3 in the league. It's not because they're not talented offensively. It's just they're so hard to score on that possessions quality possessions. Even in this league, teams have had a hard time getting them on.
And I guess the job you did defensively against Wake Forest, especially with the interior players like Thomas, sort of gives you some confidence going against those guys.
Yeah, the difference is these guys are seniors and Thomas is a freshman.
Right.
You know, he's gonna be a very good player in this league, but that's a big jump. You know, yeah, I think both Booker and Jennings have had 25+ games in this league already, and that's hard to do. You know, you have to be very talented offensively. So those guys provide a good inside-out threat from the post spots.
McDaniels, he's a guy that likes to block shots, goes for the block. Is that something you try to go at him, offensively? Or?
Well, he's pretty good at it, and he's a different shot blocker than like a Daniel, in terms of he gets his blocks in space, where there's space between him and who's blocking the shot. So he doesn't get a lot of fouls because of that. But we're going to be aggressive offensively. I think we've gotten much better in that since the first game of the ACC, where I've said time and time again we were too tentative in that game. But again, you have to strike the delicate balance of being aggressive, but also in particular on the road, staying composed and playing with the correct poise.